All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in to the WTCF podcast. It's Charlie here hanging out at the house and wanted to go through this week's intention. And maybe this is something that helps you. Is you will not be criticized by somebody who's doing more than you. And the thought concept behind that one is if somebody's already doing more than you, especially for something you're really passionate about. So you're on a path towards something and this is the expert in that field. Most likely that kind of person's not going to criticize you because they've already understood what it takes to get to the level that you're at. And they're going to go ahead and hopefully be supportive and kind of guide you in a good direction to help you go forward. The other side of that one is a lot of people who go ahead and give us criticism haven't done anything associated to like the work that needs to happen. So I've made fun of it this week, and I'll leave it this way. Uh, when I started up We the Collective, I was told by a few people that I shouldn't do it. Just don't do it. You don't know what you're doing. Don't do it. Um, it's bad for you. It just don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And when I started asking questions, I'm like, well, how many businesses have you opened? And they said none. It's really hard to take some of that other criticism. I know it's coming from like a good spot and they mean well. That's not kind of what I'm getting at in this scenario. It's more along the lines of like, I want to go ahead and learn from people who are doing some of the other hard stuff that needs to get done. I want to learn from those people. I want to learn from the experts. So you're not going to get criticized by somebody who's doing more than you, especially in your field. Now, the other side of that coin that I thought was really important and just imperative, like it needs to be understood that when we go ahead and offer criticisms back to other people, are we coming from the same spot? Are we looking at it saying, well, we are experts in this one and we want to be supportive and helpful in their endeavors as they go ahead and learn how to do this? Or are we just naysayers because we're ignorant and we don't know and they should be like us, that we haven't done it, they shouldn't do it either? There's a lot of that's out there where it's like, no, you should be more like me. And it's like, well, I'm meant to be me. That's the fun part. I get to be me. I get to make my choices. I get to make my decisions, and I have to live with them. And I accept that, and I think that's really important. So as we go ahead and start to learn more about criticism, first and foremost, you should really be focusing in on your passion. These are the things that matter most, like your goals, the things that really excite you about life. Life is not meant to be existed and just sit from Netflix binge to Netflix binge and expect our lives to get better. The idea is to go ahead and say, I want to actively be involved in something. So even if I wanted to go ahead and Netflix binge, which I've been a person in the past, I became like a cinephile. I really loved watching movies and understanding movies. And I still find a ton of enjoyment after watching movies for how it's shot, the cinematography, the storytelling that it's doing. So I can sit there and watch that stuff and have an active viewpoint of it instead of passively just sitting there taking out information. So I get it. I'm no filmmaker by any means, but like it's super fun to go ahead and watch that. But a lot of people aren't going in it with the same intent that I might be in that scenario. So, focus in on the things that really excite you about life and things that you can work on within yourself that'll make you a little bit better. So again, when the criticism starts to show up, you're like, but this really genuinely makes me happy. Why would I stop doing these things where I'm learning this, I'm improving at this, like these other skills that start to develop? Because I think it's really easy to fall down a path where, hey, I like to do this thing. And it's like, well, that's really bad for you. You shouldn't do that. And it's like, but it makes me happy. Does it? Like a lot of the other addiction stuff that's out there, like case in point. Apparently, I'm trying to learn, I just haven't yet. And again, to get back onto it. Secondly, start to seek feedback from experienced individuals. Like actively go seek out people who have done some of the stuff that you're working on. So, case in point for myself, for the part of this narrative, I wanted to be a better runner, so I hung out with more runners. I joined the Lively group. It's 4:30 on a Wednesday. In 2 hours, I will be outside running about my 3 miles. I'm hoping to gun for 4 because I want to get a little bit better at it. So I have my conversation with these runners and I want to be more like them in terms of running. I don't want to live their lives outside of that one. They could have a bunch of other things that are going on. But this piece, speaking to a marathon runner, is going to help me understand how to run a marathon better, or at least understand what they've gone through. And if I'm working my way towards it, a lot of people aren't going to go ahead and say, well, you shouldn't go do that. It's like, here's how I would go and approach it. And I would think about these things. And hey, if these things are for you, then these things are for you, and these things are for this. And you start to learn. So seeking out experts and making sure that you're going to get proper guidance. On that note, build a supportive network. I think that falls within the same realm of like, if you find people who are experiencing this stuff, the group of people that they're spending their time around are probably doing something really similar. So for a lot of myself, what I've kind of recognized is when I spend a lot of time at the bar, I become more bar focused and I become more like the people at the bar. If I spend more of my time at soccer, and I find myself being more like the soccer players. Like we have this like ability to adapt. We're incredibly adaptable into a bunch of different scenarios. This is why like our teenage years and those formative years are so tough, because we're starting to learn how do we start to fit in with other groups. In reality, it's about being yourself and finding what other groups are going to, accept or reject you for who you are. But again, still be optimistic about like, this is a good person that I want to go ahead and become. So seeking out other people to network with, to develop with, other people who are working on that. So case in point, earlier today, 2 members went ahead and broke the deadlift record for women over at the studio. I should say deadlift record, but then it gets confusing. But a majority of the people at the studio are women, which is cool. So they got to 260. And it looked really easy. Super excited for them. They got better because they hung out with other people who were doing the same stuff. They started to inspire and compete slightly with one another. And it's just really helping them get better. I even had some new guy today came in. He's off of a marathon from April and he hasn't been working out. Really good form. Starts to break down at around like 250. Kind of what I was expecting. But I think he made it a little bit further, kind of seeing these other women excited about each and every lift. And again, when you're around people who are excited about their stuff, you're going to go ahead and improve on that too. Now, on the other side of the coin, we need to make sure that we are mindful of our own criticisms when they're going out there. To, recognize like, what is it like to like walk in somebody else's shoes is the easy way to phrase it. But like, really think back. Like, if you honestly are the expert in the thing that they're struggling on, you should be able to look back and find that exact moment and be like, in that moment, I did this. If you tell them to quit and you don't have a good example of it, you're just giving bad criticism for it, especially if it's something they're really passionate about, right? This is talking about passion and goals, not like how much beer you can drink in an hour or something weird, right? Or something along the same equivalency. But like, try to understand where they're coming from. Consider their challenge. Like, try to be empathetic of what they're going through that got them to this point to begin with. And then from there, start to offer the same support and encouragement that you would have sought after, right? Looking for other people to go ahead and say like, hey, when I was in these moments, I thought and tried and worked on these things to improve myself. And then make sure that you're going to go ahead and reflect and be like, well, how did it feel when you got criticism from other people? Like, are you giving that same feeling to somebody else, even if you didn't intend it? But you can always go back and have that conversation a little bit further of like, hey, you know what? I felt, not saying like, oh, you misunderstood me. Like, I felt I didn't explain myself in the right way. My viewpoint is this one. This is what I was trying to say in this moment. You're not trying to like really correct it, but like, I guess the phrasing would be like to say, I've understood a little bit more and I felt that the direction that I gave you was wrong. So as we go ahead and live through like this really crazy, stupid ass life that we have, which is cool, right? We get to be here. Keep in mind that, people who have done the work, people who are trying really, really hard, people who are driven to do this kind of stuff, they're not going to go ahead and put you down. If somebody right now came up to me and said, I want to open a business, the very first thing that I would do is like, what have you started on? How have you filed these things? Like, and start to pose some questions that like genuinely help them move forward in that process. I take the same approach when it comes to weightlifting. I'm probably the expert in the room at the time, but I'm trying to build them up so they can actually get further than I can, where they can ask good questions. Where like, Oh, wow, I didn't think of that one. That is a good point because your existence is different than mine. And then when we go out and give criticism, make sure that it's coming from a spot that we can be like positive and uplifting and help them forward. So like you will not get put down by somebody who has done better than you at this point. They probably want to help you up. And if people are sociopaths and they're trying to put you down, go find other people to spend your time around. There's way too many, like too many of us anyway. So there's got to be somebody else who feels or experiences something really similar that's not too far away. Good luck.